Hey, come see us on tour. We'll be in Tempe, Arizona, Los Angeles, Columbus, Ohio, Dayton, Ohio, Cincinnati, Lexington, Burbank, California, and Honolulu. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for those tickets. Don't go anywhere else. So you want to see the ex-head of the CIA get pranked by a couple of comedians? This is hilarious. This really happened. Mike Pompeo, former CIA director and Secretary of State, was tricked by Russian pranksters, making him believe that they were African politicians. And essentially,
what's their name again?
Well, I don't know. We're going to find out. And essentially admitted to a complete failure of Western strategy vis-a-vis Russia. Let's listen.
You can't let them believe that they get to. This is really a China issue for me. We need to pull the Russians back into a European model, not an Asian model.
But for you, does it mean that Russia is going far away from West if they're trying to go to China's?
We need to prevent it from happening.
Really? So how we can manage it?
If this war stopped, and then you begin to bring Russia back in and convince them that they're in a better place with us than them. There's nothing fancy about it.
So if you realize what Mike Pompeo just said, he's saying that everything that they've done vis-a-vis Russia and Ukraine has pushed Russia closer to China. And that's the thing that we've been warned against from everybody from Henry Kissinger to Noam Chomsky and Secretary of State and everybody in between. But what Joe Biden and the neocons have done vis-a-vis Ukraine and NATO expansion has pushed Russia closer to who? China. That's a thing that we're supposed to never want to do, and we've done it. And so now he's admitting, yeah, this policy, it's a failure. Well, we have to end the war. He just said we have to end the Ukraine war and find a way to get Russia back into the European economy. That's what he's saying.
Wait, why is he saying we have to weaken it? Because he's an intelligence guy, so he knows we have to weaken Russia. Russia.
So he said that Russia was a China issue to him and that the West needed to, quote, pull the Russians back into a European model, not an Asian model. And that the way to do this was to stop the war in Ukraine and convince Russia that they're in a better place with us than with China. So to become partners with Russia. That's what he's saying. He's saying everything that they've done for the last 5 years has been a failure.
Well, I would say longer than that.
This is again, yeah, even longer than that. This is again admitting that the entire Western strategy vis-a-vis Russia these past 2 decades failed because it's painfully obvious that it's done anything but convince Russia that they're in a better place with the West than with China. I mean, Russia is at war with the West, for crying out loud, and there's now a divide and a lack of trust so profound it's likely to last for generations to come. So Pompeo is essentially just venting a frustration here. That's what he's doing. Pulling the Russians back into a European model is very much wishful thinking for the foreseeable future. He's just upset that everything that they've done for the past 2 decades has failed, especially the last 5 years. What do you want to say?
I don't trust any of these fuckers, and I live here. I'm not in Russia, and I don't trust. Why would Russia trust them?
That's right.
I don't trust them.
That's right. So, and that's the ex-head of the CIA getting pranked by a couple of Russians to admit that our policy vis-a-vis Russia has been a failure. And that what we ought to do is we ought to start trying to buddy up with them and try to get them back into a friendly relationship with us in Europe instead of blowing up their pipeline, which is crushing the European economy because they now have to pay expensive, they have to buy expensive oil and gas. That was a lot cheaper when it was coming through the Nord Stream pipeline. This is all a because they thought that, you know what they're doing to Ukraine right now? Well, half of the country has been sold off to people like Blackguard, Vanguard, State Street. these people that own $75 trillion worth of net assets around the world, they thought they were going to be able to do that to Russia. They thought they were going to be able to balkanize Russia, split it up. They thought Russia was going to be weak, and they were going to be able to crush it and split it up and get them to overthrow Putin, and then they could sell it off to same people who are buying up Ukraine. That's what they thought they were going to be able to do.
Well, it worked here. It worked here.
It worked here.
Why wouldn't it work there?
That's right. And it's certainly working in Ukraine.
You can't go rescue your neighbor if there's a flood now. That's where we're at.
That's where we're at. It's illegal.
This is the stories you hear of communism, about the ineffective government that gets in the way of anybody trying to do anything.
That's right.
We're already there. What is he worried about China or Russia? You live in it.
Think about that. They arrest you to go to try to help flood victims. That's where we're at.
Even the worst of Venezuela, which I've heard horrible things. I haven't heard that one yet.
You're afraid of China? We are China. And,
we don't have a nice monorail. We don't have the public transportation.
It didn't happen through a centralized government. It happened through a centralized capitalist monopoly system. An oligarchy. It's not hyperbole when I say you live in an oligarchy. You live in an oligarchy. That's a fact.
You know what an autocrat? They go autocratic leadership. You know what they mean when they say that? I finally understand. When the guy you voted for is actually has the job that they say he has. That's called autocracy. When a president is actually the president, that's an autocracy. When you're not a puppet of a council of 13, whatever the fuck, that's their democracy. That's what they call democracy. The people elected a guy, and that guy's in charge. That's a dictatorship.
Yeah, that's what they're afraid of.
He doesn't even consult with any oligarchs. And Jimmy, he's such an autocrat. When he came to power, he brought all the oligarchs in and said, give me over this money that you stole back right now so I can give them services, that monster. And that's why they hate him so much and want to overthrow him. You know how in Russia they hate him?
Yeah.
Even though they keep bringing him back? It must be them who are brainwashed. It couldn't be me.
Hey, come see us on tour. We'll be in Tempe, Arizona, Los Angeles, Columbus, Ohio, Dayton, Ohio, Cincinnati, Lexington, Burbank, California, and Honolulu. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for those tickets. Don't go anywhere else.